is part of the reason you ended up divorced because you were feeling lonely and alone. Listen, we all know that you're better off being alone than with someone who's an asshole or who makes you feel lonely. But it's a hard pill to swallow. And definitely I was feeling very lonely
in your marriage.
In my marriage. That's right. And I don't think there's anything worse than feeling lonely in a marriage. I would rather be lonely alone, if that makes sense.
Well, you'd rather be alone than lonely in a marriage.
Right, because you have expectations of not feeling lonely when you're in a marriage.
Right.
And when you are feeling lonely and like you're not, connecting with your spouse, it's a very lonely place to be. And that's definitely not the purpose of marriage. It's certainly not what I'm looking for. And I think that it's a hard lesson for people.
I was definitely isolated in my marriage, but I learned to be alone in my marriage, and I actually liked it because I didn't like being with him. So he was away so much by choice that I was okay. Like I knew how to be a single mom during my marriage because he wasn't around. And so whatever I did ruled, if I say go, okay, you good? Yeah, I'm good. All right, let's go.
Right.
And so I made all the rules, I made all the stuff. And I think what was hard was because I was a single mom in my marriage. Then when he wanted to co-parent during our divorce, I was like, who the fuck are you? You haven't even been around for 4 years. You don't get to say shit. And that was a hard thing to do, but feeling lonely, I was happier lonely and alone than I was in my marriage. So I think I was feeling that way. And I was with a person I shouldn't have been with.
But that's you're making me wonder if whether or not you feel alone in your marriage has to do with how you feel about your partner. Because I felt the only reason that it was easier for me sometimes when he was away was because then I didn't have my expectations
didn't have the anxiety, right?
But it was also like I wasn't being let down,
right?
Because he already wasn't around because he was traveling, so I wasn't being let down by the fact that he was home and we weren't hanging out. Versus, I think that it's possible for some people, if you're just happier that they're away, then that may be obviously an indicator that you don't want to be hanging out with them anyway. I think what was lonely for me was I wanted to be hanging out and we weren't, and that made me feel lonely. And
also when he came home, you weren't always hanging out either.
No, that's my whole point. Is that we weren't hanging out, and I wanted to be hanging out. And so now I had just spent the whole day doing whatever, and I wanted to download and catch up on our days and like be bonding together. And that's when he already had used up all of his energy and he needed his alone time. And I'm like, well, we just weren't in sync at all.
Right.
And it's obviously everybody knows, like I said initially, like you're better off being alone than you are with someone who's treating you badly.
Yeah. Or
I think it's a hard decision. I wasn't being treated badly. I just wasn't being treated the way that I wanted and needed to be treated in a marriage. I need to be with someone who, when we are both home,
is excited to see you and be with you.
And literally just wants to sit on the couch right next to me, even if we're both on our phones and even if we're having quiet time and we're talking or watching TV, like we're just there together.
Right.
And that wasn't happening. And that was something that I need.
Yeah.
And it was, I really am very into the love languages. And when I read the book about the love languages, it became very clear to me that I was speaking English and he was speaking Japanese, and we were never going to get through the language barrier. So I do recommend that book. I think it's excellent reading, but it also can tell you, depending on where you are in your relationship, whether or not it is something that whether you can bridge the gap in your different love languages. For me,
were you able to talk to him about that book?
A little bit. He was supposed to read it and he didn't, but it was like physical touch and quality time are my two biggest love languages. And so to be with someone who is really an extreme introvert and really doesn't love being around people, and that drains them of their energy, we are not compatible. And that really couldn't work in the end. And the feelings of loneliness were agonizing for me.
Yeah.
But so I did feel better, even
When he
though
was
I was
away.
not so when he was away, but when we separated and when we decided to get divorced, like I felt like, okay, but now I'm alone on my own terms.
Right.
I have the choice.
Right.
To either be alone or to make plans with a friend
Right.
or be around the kids
Right.
or whatever.
Right.
Like that made a huge difference for me.
Yeah. More so after I separated from my ex, I dated a guy and I dated him for a while because I wanted to learn to bike. So I biked on 9W, which is a highway a lot of people bike on.
Not safe.
And then I wanted to water ski again, and we were going to the lake. So I learned to water ski. So you're going to hear, my name is TH, by the way. This is Jessica. We are the ex experts. Yeah. You are watching Divorce, Etc. on YouTube. And I have said before that, like many of the relationships I've been in, I've learned something and I took something from it. So I took all that fun from that relationship, because the guy I dated before him, it was like pulling teeth, and he was a nice guy, but like he was not social at all and not active like that. So I have like a picture of me water skiing, and I was like, oh my God, I can still do it. So that's what I got out of that. But then came Thanksgiving.
And you didn't want to be there.
He wanted me to go with his family. It wasn't my time with the kids. And I said no.
And you chose
we had
to
been
be
dating
alone
for like 6 months, and I said no. And he goes, well, I went with you to this, I went to that. I'm like, I'm not going. And I stayed home alone. Thanksgiving, I did make a plan, so we'll talk all about in another episode how to deal with holidays and stuff like that. If you're alone, we got tons of good information for you. But I binge watch movies. I ate whatever the hell I want. I think I actually went to the movies too, because Thanksgiving was like a big time of movies coming out. No one could see me. Obviously, I like baseball hats, just go like that. And yeah, I chose to be alone, and it was the best decision. But there were times after divorce where I was like feeling sad, like I wasn't invited to this person's party.
Yes, you have those occasions,
and it was
where
forced upon me to be alone.
Yeah.
And I wasn't included.
Yeah.
And I wasn't invited. And I was pissed. And I got to tell you, still a little pissed about that. And that was a long time ago. That was probably the most hurtful thing that happened to me, because it was someone who was like family.
Right.
And I just felt like, why are you putting me in the same boat as him? So those are the two times. That's a time when I enjoyed being alone. And I totally like embraced my power of control, like you were talking about. The other time it was forced upon me, and I felt like complete shit.
Yeah.
But I got through it. And so if you're alone, listen, the only way we learn and grow is by learning and growing.
That's right.
And keeping your eyes open and understanding, like, yeah, well, maybe I could have done this, maybe I could have done that, or maybe I didn't have to do any of that. And I feel perfectly fine.
Right.
It's not every day is rainbows and unicorns. Not every day is like belly laughing, but you should be. It should be. But you should just feel a sense of calm. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, and again, we're growing, right? We're all, works in progress, but when you are deciding that you're getting divorced, or you're going through divorce, or you already are divorced, and you are struggling with some of this loneliness kind of stuff, like it's important to really try to put it into perspective, to sit down and think to yourself, is it that you're lonely, or is it that you're alone?
Uncomfortable being alone.
That's right. And I don't go to the movies by myself. I did go to a Broadway show by myself once. And that was because it was a perfect example of him bailing and not wanting to go out. And I was like, I'm going. It was a show that I was dying to see. But it's important to really think to yourself and be able to like figure out where to put it, so that you can learn what you need to do to be able to move forward and to be comfortable with it. If you're uncomfortable being alone, you don't have to be the person that goes on a solo vacation. You don't have to be the person that
hard things.
Goes out to a restaurant, makes a reservation, and sits for a table of one. You don't have to do those things, but you do have to learn to get to a point where you are distracted enough, or have enough planned, or activities at home, even if it's doing laundry and like taking a bath, like just things where you learn to be able to be alone, because you're better off there than being in a relationship where you aren't getting what you need, because you're either being treated poorly, or you just simply are settling for less than you deserve.
Yeah, we have a lot of good tips about how to deal with weekends without your kids or vacations alone. I will leave you with one tip is even if you're not ready to kind of go out into the world, go to a park.
That's right.
The weather's
Just get
getting nicer.
outside.
Just be around other humans, even if you don't talk to them. Go to a coffee shop, read in a library or a bookstore or in the park if it's nice. If you can make a commitment to yourself in your calendar, schedule time that you are going to take care of yourself, like Jessica was saying in an earlier episode, making plans with friends is a commitment she has made to herself and she's accountable for. Start with little steps. Go for a walk every single day or whatever it is that you like. Do what you like. And then you won't feel alone and you won't feel lonely. I promise you that because you'll be connecting with something that brings you joy. So I'm TH Jessica. I think we've said this 3 times during this show. Leave a comment. Tell us what you do. Give us any questions you have. hello@xexperts.com.
And keep in mind, your feedback is what generates our episodes of our topics. So whatever we hear from you is stuff that we're going to talk about for you.
See you again soon.